Hello everyone and welcome back to Rewrite. Let's continue. I'm a big fan of spicy food, but I also like ghost stories and urban legends. He takes off his apron and sits down in one of the booths, then starts talking to me. He joined the Black Spice Alliance in high school and caused all sorts of trouble, but in middle school he was just an ordinary member of the newspaper club. I take notes and continue asking questions. So, you ask about the Asahi Haruka rumors? I was trying to find brand new obscure ghost stories, not ones like Hanako's son that everyone knows already. Then one day someone told me about a cursed girl named Asahi Haruka. He probably benefited from publishing his phone number in that culture festival booklet. Baraki-senpai became interested in that story as soon as he heard about it. But why do you want to know about that? The same reason as you, I'm curious. You should forget about it, for your own good. He says that immediately. He still sounds like a hoodlum, but he also sounds very serious. I heard you suffered an injury and stopped investigating the story. Pretty much, a huge sign fell on me. I guess I got lucky though. A huge sign? I'm amazed you're alive. It kinda tipped over, instead of falling straight down, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. If it hit me directly, I definitely would have died. I see, the severity of his injury was exaggerated a bit. But he is getting more and more worried as we continue talking. I'm sure the incident shocked him at the time. I don't know exactly what happened, but Baraki-senpai, do you believe that your injury was caused by Asahi Haruka's curse? He repeatedly gulps, as if preparing to say something very emotional. Normally I think it's shameful to be afraid of curses, but this case is different. He is probably trying to tell me that too. I'm sure it was terrifying to have that sign fall on you, but could it have just been a coincidence? If it was just the sign, yes. So there was glass breaking too? What are you after? I want to know who the cursed girl, Asahi Haruka, really is. Are you also into the occult? Well, something like that. I'm actually in the occult research club. All the more reason you should stop. I don't understand that logic. It would make sense if he told me to back off because I wouldn't like occult things. But why does being into it make this worse? People who are into the occult never actually believe any of it is real. Baraki-senpai, I read the column you published in middle school. You seem to believe it. I just liked ghost stories and urban legends that were a bit creepy and dangerous. But I could enjoy them precisely because I knew it was all fake. I knew I was safe. There's a cheap thrill in thinking about how scary it'd be if you actually got cursed or whatever. It was just a way to kill time, but... You're saying the Asahi Haruka story isn't safe? That's why I'm investigating it. As a member of the occult research club, it's my job to find out what's really going on. So please tell me, what do you know about Asahi Haruka? And what happened to Kishida Ryugo 7 years ago? What happened in year 4 class 1 7 years ago? Please tell me. Baraki-senpai crosses his arms and groans nervously. He probably feels the same way as Yoshino. He's ashamed to have been afraid of it, but he still remembers what made him so terrified. Baraki, you lived through the hell of the Spice Alliance. Stop acting so scared. Boss! This sounds interesting. I'll listen too, so start telling him already. His boss had been listening from the kitchen, and now he's come out to try and persuade him to tell us the rest. That push is enough to finally make Baraki-senpai talk. When I heard about the Asahi Haruka story, I decided to look into it so I could be the first one to publish it. Then he found out that the story came from 7th Municipal's Year 4 Class 1. Same as me so far. But then he discovered that Class 1 happened to be planning a reunion. 7th Municipal has a tradition of every class getting back together a year after graduating. I was from there too. That takes me back. According to the manager, this reunion involved everyone getting together in a classroom on a Sunday where they drank juice, ate snacks, and had a bunch of fun talking. So Baraki-senpai walked into a party like that. According to Yoshino, up until that day, the name Asahi Haruka and Kishida Ryugo weren't treated as taboo subjects, and yet they are today. Whatever happened that day changed all that. That day, it was raining cats and dogs, just like it is now. I brought with me a little notebook, some pencils, and a tape recorder. Baraki-senpai probably thought discussing a ghost story like Asahi Haruka would just be another addition to the party. When he entered the classroom, the party was already in full swing. "Hello, I'm from the newspaper club. I'm trying to learn about Asahi Haruka. Does anyone know that ghost story?" When he said that, everyone told him about it for fun, but a few people kept their distance from him. The Asahi Haruka story was essentially tacked onto Kishida Ryugo's death, so they probably found it distasteful. They didn't want to talk to me because they didn't want to discuss a dead ex-classmate. That sounds like Yoshino. So what did they tell you? First, about Kishida Ryugo. He stopped coming to school only a week or two after he transferred, and they heard he died after that. They may not have been close to him, but having a classmate die must have been a huge shock at that age. It's not surprising someone made a ghost story out of it. Versions of the ghost stories say he died of a mysterious illness or had weird bruises covering his whole body or something. Did any of them actually see that? Nope, none of them knew about his death firsthand. In fact, none of them even knew the hospital he was in, so no one could go visit him. Since he died there is no way to disprove anything. All ghost stories are like that, hehe. So their classmate disappeared and died where no one could visit him, and they made a ghost story out of it. I feel bad for Kishida Ryugo, but I can understand that. And what about the Asahi Haruka story itself? Right, I asked them where he transferred from and what he did there. Then they started telling me that Kishida came from an orphanage where he met Asahi Haruka. Did Kishida Ryugo use that name himself? Yes, he told them the girl's name was Asahi Haruka, though he never told them what kanji to write it with. Which means there's no way to check if she actually exists. Really? That's just fishy. The boss sighs as if someone just mocked him. Still, it might not really matter if Asahi Haruka was a real girl. If you try to learn about Asahi Haruka, you will get cursed. As long as that connection remains, the actual girl with that name isn't all that important. But that just raises more questions. Why would investigating a girl who doesn't even exist cause strange things to happen? That's what separates this from just an ordinary ghost story. Well, honestly, I didn't think it was that plausible either. But that's part of what makes urban legends fun, so... What happened next? Baraki-senpai looks down at first. I got plenty of material for my article. They told me a lot. He intended to write it all up and publish a new ghost story for Kazamatsuri. From here on, I'll try to leave out the parts where Baraki-senpai got emotional and rewrite it in my own words. That'll help me analyze it calmly. Heh, rewrite. It happened in the classroom while the party was still going on. 3:55 p.m. The clock in the classroom fell down and broke. Since they were just talking about Asahi Haruka's curse, everyone started talking about how the curse made that happen. Of course, it was still just a bunch of boys having fun at this point. Since the classroom's clock broke, the times for the other events come from Baraki-senpai checking his watch. 3:57 p.m. A single horizontal crack in a window pane. Class 1's old teacher swept up the broken pieces of the clock, put some tape on the window and left. Everyone thought someone threw a rock from the courtyard or something, but they couldn't see anyone down there. 3:58 p.m. Another crack in the window. The atmosphere in the classroom started to change. The girls were quiet. The boys weren't as loud as before, but some of them were still talking about the curse. They might have been trying to cure everyone else's gloomy mood. But by claiming those creepy events were caused by a curse, they really just made everyone believe it. 4 p.m. 2 fluorescent lights broke. A few students were underneath them, so everyone asked if they got hurt. The girls were now very afraid, and a few left to get a teacher. Some of them picked up the pieces on their own. Most of the students weren't talking anymore, though a handful made weird noises out of fear. The only sounds were of the thunderstorm outside and of people's reactions to the thunder. 4:01 p.m. The teacher came back and asked what was going on. When he did, about 3 more window panes broke. One of them was like a spider web. The broken glass looked eerie, so everyone removed it from the window. Since the teacher had been there, he knew none of them had broken it. This made the classroom even more chaotic. A few people started crying. When the teacher walked over to the windows to look outside and check the glass, most of the remaining fluorescent lights all broke at once. Glass poured down into the classroom. The room filled with screams. The teacher decided the room was dangerous and instructed all the students to leave. But the students were in a panic and fled out of the room anyway. A few people fell over or got shoved to the ground during this, making it even more confusing. The students were all pale and shivering, saying it was Asahi Haruka's curse. And all of that happened within 5 minutes? All of that glass broke in only 5 minutes. It's easy to imagine what that would do to a reunion party. Baraki-senpai adds that none of the other classrooms experienced anything like that. Is that true? I'm not buying it. It's true! I'm not making this up. That really happened. What happened after that? After that, we all went our separate ways. Wait, we might have moved to a different classroom and eaten something. Then the teacher pulled me aside, since he thought I did something. The teacher thought Baraki-senpai had brought up the topic of the cursed girl, then set it up to look like the curse was happening in that very room. But it was easy to show his innocence. There were 20 other students there, and none of them had seen him do anything. Baraki-senpai was only released after the students started leaving, so he didn't get to ask any more questions. As the rain poured, he trudged home. The reunion that started out nice and fun was shattered like glass by some mysterious force. He feared he might have touched on something terrifying. And he felt uneasy and exhausted and several other things for no real reason. He couldn't even think about what had just happened. Don't wake me. Eh? Suddenly, someone spoke to him. Why was someone else out here in the rain? Was he imagining it? Something grabbed his arm from behind, forcefully telling him it was real. When he turned around, he saw a girl. She was holding his arm as if to keep him from running away. Who are you? At first glance, that girl with her old-fashioned bobbed haircut looked like she might have been one of the students from the reunion. But he knew none of the girls there looked like this. Huh? What are you talking about? Who are you? Part of him knew who she might be and why she would tell him not to wake her. The girl showed no sign of letting him go. She was still holding his arm. Or else, I'll what? Through the hand on his arm, he felt an indescribable chill. It wasn't his imagination. At first glance, nothing had changed, but his arm was going numb, and he felt dull pain as if it was swelling up. Let go! He swung his arm, breaking her grip at the same time. He heard several bursting sounds, and glass rained down on the asphalt. It was pretty dark there, so the streetlights were on even though it wasn't nighttime yet. He could feel the area get even darker with each sound. When he looked up, he saw an even bigger change. The huge sign over a nearby grocery store was moving back and forth, even though the wind wasn't that strong. There was no way a large metal sign bolted into the side of a building could blow in the wind. He was seeing things. He stared at it for a while to prove it to himself, and that's why he's still here. That sign slowly tilted toward him, hanging over the ground in front of the store. Rainwater streamed down it, spraying over the street. When he saw that, for a moment he thought it was beautiful. In retrospect, he shouldn't have had time to think such things. If anything had been just a little different, that sign might have fallen right on him. Instead, it fell right at his feet. Then it bounced, and one corner hit him in the head. Even then, he was lucky. If the sharpest part had hit him, it might have torn his head open, maybe even crushed his skull. He doesn't remember fainting, but when he recovered from the shock, the creepy girl was gone. All that remained was the rain, which had never stopped pouring, and the sign lying on the ground. And a line of warm blood running down his forehead. After that I heard a scream and someone told me I was bleeding. Someone in the grocery store came out and apologized several times, but other people on the street thought we were having a fight. Some of those people were probably from class 1. And that's how the part about the sign falling on him got added to the ghost story. Is that everything? Yes, that's it. I stopped investigating it after that. Since I understood that the Asahi Haruka story is actually dangerous and not something I should look into just for fun. You're pathetic. It was a thunderstorm, right? Lightning could have caused a lot of that. That must have been why all the lights broke, right? And then just a sudden gust of wind. You know, like Kamaitachi or El Nino or Jalapeno or something. What? Never heard of the third one, but I get what he's saying. As strange as it was for all those things to happen so close together, each of them might just be a coincidence. As long as that's a possibility, we can sweep away any strange phenomena as mere bad luck. But Baraki-senpai wasn't reassured by that. I'm sure that girl was the subject of the ghost story. The subject? You mean, she was Asahi Haruka? Yes, that's what I believe. You think you met that Asahi ghost? Ha! Don't be an idiot. Asahi Haruka could make flowers wilt and animals die by touching them. Even humans would get mysterious, fatal illnesses from her touch. Yes, that's how the story goes. She showed me proof of that. Showed you what exactly? Just spit it out. It's hard to describe. But showed isn't the right word. She put a mark on me. I can still see it. Eh? Still see it? I can't understand what he means at first. The boss and I open our eyes wide. Baraki-senpai starts moving his arms and rolls up his sleeves. He shows us his slender, pale arms. What are we supposed to see? Come on, look closely. It's faded a lot by now, but it's still there. Still there? You've got some weak arms. What are we supposed to see on these pale sticks? Look, here. Can you see it? I gasped without thinking. That's definitely some kind of mark. This is where Asahi Haruka grabbed my arm. There's a light purple mark in the shape of a small girl's hand. Did she squeeze your arm that hard? She was strong, but nowhere near enough to leave a mark like this. If it was that easy to bruise me, we'd still be able to see all the places you poked me, boss. Even if she did squeeze him that hard, that shouldn't still be there 4 years later. But it still looks fresh. And it doesn't just look like a hand. It has very sharp, clear edges that make it obvious only a hand could have possibly made that mark. Asahi Haruka left this to prove that she warned him not to wake her up. The boss continues saying it's all a coincidence. But the more he does, the harder it is for me to think this really isn't a curse. Each little thing can be explained on its own, but it's safe to say that investigating Asahi Haruka does result in bad things happening. From what he just told me, the obvious conclusion is that Asahi Haruka made that mark. Which means there really is a girl called Asahi Haruka out there, and she attacks people when they try to investigate her, I guess. Baraki-senpai experienced all those strange events 4 years ago at the class reunion. Until then it was just a little ghost story everyone in the class remembered, which he'd wanted to publish in his newspaper. Did Asahi Haruka hear about that and come after him? Everything that happened at the reunion elevated that story up to a taboo, and it should have been forgotten by everyone after that. For a while it was. But then someone told us about it, and I'm digging everything back up. That caused more strange events to happen to everyone in Class 1 who still remember that reunion. Even Yoshino is shaking from it. Which means she should appear soon. The mystery girl appeared in front of Baraki-senpai personally. She told him in person not to wake her and left a mark. So, she should appear in front of me any day now. Suddenly, I hear a dry bursting sound. Glass shards immediately fall to the floor. Until just a moment ago, the two men sitting next to me were fiercely arguing about whether it really was a curse or not, but they both go quiet as if they lost power. Well, the room really did lose power. One of the lights in here just broke. What the hell? Damn it, why did that? Boss, that's... They both look up at the ceiling, then Baraki-senpai sees it and points. Yes, I know. He's pointing to the chandelier. One of its light bulbs is broken. Did that just break? Yes. Idiot, it's just a coincidence. Wah! As if to force the boss to believe it too. No, because all three of us were watching. The other bulbs on the chandelier burst one by one. As we stare in disbelief, it continues throughout the shop until every single light is broken. Wah! Watch out! Whoa! The pieces fall on us. We all put our arms over our heads. It almost feels like the sky broke into a million pieces and fell down on us. For an instant, I feel as if the world is ending. When I come to my senses, all is silent. The shop is still dark, almost all the lights have broken. There's just Baraki-senpai and his boss cowering, occasionally screaming, just like the students in class 1. I can't do it! I can't talk about Asahi Haruka! Please, let me go now! Please, stop this! Baraki, calm down, you idiot! Go get a broom! We are terribly sorry about this. We'll start cleaning it up right away. Would any of you mind if we closed early today? The manager hasn't admitted it was the curse. But he probably would admit that the lights broke because I asked about Asahi Haruka. So it's no surprise they won't talk about it anymore. I can't blame him. So I stand up apologetically, tell them I'm sorry, and leave. There's no wind outside, but it's still raining heavily. Next time on Rewrite. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a nice day. Bye bye!